Hello YouTube, it's Willow here. I thought today might be a good day to show you an update on my Plutonic punk vegetable garden. I gave you a tour early in the season when things were just barely starting to come up. And now that things are looking all gorgeous and green and lush, I thought I would show you the veggies of my labor. Har har har. So this is the little vegetable bed that my landlord and I made. It is an awesome little bed, and it's been kind of a mixed success, mostly because the topsoil, the soil that we used, was a little lacking in organic matter. It was a little sandy, but basically I'm happy with how things have gone. It's a little shadowy here. Maybe I should actually wait, but the stars of the show definitely were the bok choy all year long, strong all year long. I've been eating this bok choy for about 3 weeks now, plentifully, so it's been producing really nicely. The spinach row was supposed to be this row along here, along the edge here, and I learned a valuable lesson about using fresh spinach seeds every year, because apparently spinach seeds do not last a super long time, and my seeds were just a little bit too old. But what I have put in here is I replanted some chard, and it's actually coming up quite nicely in place of, I had one spinach plant that produced, one lowly spinach plant. What happened was the seedlings came up, they just didn't fully produce. But anyway, the bok choy is definitely making up for those guys. It's crazy, going all over the place. I'll try to get my shadow out of the way. And I also had to replant these guys three times. This is the third planting. Finally, some lettuce has come up here, and I hope it's going to grow to be, you know, producing big lettuces. But yeah, three times, and I planted lettuce all along here, all along this row, and nothing has really come up, except for these little dudes. So again, I think it's a soil issue. I had green onions planted here at the beginning of the year. You may remember from the first video, because I know you guys are just, you know, watching all these gardening videos with rapt attention. But I was so proud of them coming up, and they ended up, we had 2 days of rain, and they started rotting, and they just started dying and turning yellow. So I had to pull them all out of there. But as you can see, I have some, the chard also came up really spottily, and I've replanted and replanted as well in there. But sorry, I can't see if I'm actually focused because of the sun, but and so they're actually coming up pretty nicely. This is some rainbow chard, some rhubarb chard. The stalks are going to be, and this is some second plant chard. This is some chard that I grew in the hedge bed, and I transplanted it in here, and it seems to be doing really well too. This chard's doing pretty well as well. But again, it's the bok choys. It's the bok choys that are really stealing the show here. And a quick tip about bok choy is that it is a cold weather vegetable, and so it bolts quickly. And what bolts means, it means that it grows, it goes to seed. It grows a stalk that shoots up in the center, and there's a flower that grows on it. And after that happens, the plant turns bitter. So if you want to stop that from happening, you basically have to pull off, you have to remove that stalk with the seeds and the flower every time you see one. So I've been coming out here regularly. I'll see if I can find one. I think I've been doing such a good job that there isn't even one starting on here. But I've been coming out here regularly to do that, and so far I've been holding it off. Actually, yeah, I think, let's see here. You can see kind of the start of one right there. That's what it starts to look like, and you have to pinch that guy off. Okay, so from there, this is the hedge bed, and it's looking gorgeous as well. there's a little bit in shadow, but we'll come up to that later. Now this is a bed that I just spaded up, again with a spade. I just spaded up the grass all along this hedge. Trimming the hedge was a little tricky. I helped the guy who did it, and it was a little tricky, but we managed. So this is, I'll just start with start on this end. This is oregano, an oregano plant that I got from the community garden, as well as some chard planted in front. This area, again, didn't grow super well. I had to plant 2 or 3 times, but finally some stuff's growing. And this is a thyme plant that I got from the community garden as well. They just have, there was a lady who didn't want her oregano anymore. Didn't want her oregano, it's a giant plant. And she gave it to whoever wanted it, and I gladly took some. And the thyme plant was donated as well, so, and they had extras. There's also some basil in the back there. You can see just some little basils. My basil did not come up as well, which is really weird because in Saskatchewan my basil grew like crazy. But, and here again we have chard in the back row and basil in the front row. These basils I think will eventually get, fairly substantial, but it's been, they came up really spotty. I had to replant a couple times. It's taken some time. This is my beautiful lettuce, as you can see. It's, I hope I'm in focus, so you can see all this lovely greenery. It's going like gangbusters, which is great. This is a really hardy, loose leaf variety, so it does well in the heat and it grows really nicely. It's a cut and grow again thing. So is chard. Chard is basically cut and grow again, means you just cut the big leaves and the little leaves will just keep on growing throughout the season. Lettuce is another thing that will bolt in the hot weather and go to seed and turn bitter, so you have to watch for that stalk shooting up in the center and just cut it off as soon as you see it. But I've been eating lettuce out of here for probably, I would say probably a good 2 weeks anyway. And yeah, it's been going well. Then we have big old broccoli plant. This is my first year trying to grow broccoli, so I don't know if it's actually going to produce any heads of broccoli, like any what you would call broccoli, but I know that the plant and the stems are delicious as well. They taste like broccoli as well. So if it doesn't produce, I will just I'll just eat the stems. In here I also have some Swiss chard planted. I didn't know what was gonna grow and what wasn't. These broccoli plants didn't look like they were actually gonna survive, so I planted chard in there just to double check, just to make sure. And then we also have a beautiful row of green onions growing here. Try to get right down here. See these beauties? They're all, and again I hope I'm in focus here. They're all growing really nicely. There's some more chard back there growing nicely. Green onions you can cut down, you can cut the tops and eat the tops, and then the bulbs will keep growing right up until the fall. Now this wild mass of beastie plant life is zucchini, and these are, I think these are called Caserta zucchinis, and they're sort of like a pale yellowish green with stripes on them. They're really juicy, really delicious. I'll see if I can find one that's growing. There we go. We've got, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that's what they look like. And I've had probably about 10 zucchinis off these zucchini plants so far. So they're hopefully going to keep on coming like crazy. Then this is a secondary. These are the zucchinis that you see more often in the supermarket, and they're delicious as well. They're just kind of the straight green guys. There's a little baby one growing right there. I don't think there's any bigger ones at this exact moment, but yeah, so they're going really great. And as you can see, like the zucchinis just get huge. That's why I asked my landlord if I could make this hedge bed, because otherwise these guys would take up an entire raised bed, right? So there really nicely there. Now we're in the shade, and I have a little strawberry plant started here. I spaced the zucchini a little too closely. I wasn't expecting to get this strawberry plant, but again, there was a bunch donated to the community garden. Yay! And so I was able to bring one of these guys up. And strawberry plants are one plant that definitely likes to spread out. So hopefully we're gonna have more than this little guy by next year. And then last but not least, my beautiful cucumbers. There's about 7 cucumber plants here, so they're gonna like spread out like crazy. I've got one trying to climb up this hedge a little bit because I read that they can do that. It makes sense, right? See how that goes. And I'll show you. There's a little cuke on its way. There's another little cuke on its way. There's a cuke on its way. So yeah, things are looking good. I think I was overwatering a little bit. Basically, when the plants are just starting to grow, they need a fair amount. They need a little bit more water. But once they're established, you can kind of cut back on the water a little bit. So I've cut back on my watering, and I think everything is looking pretty darn good. So yeah, overall, I am ecstatic with my little garden. My little Plutonic punk garden. Just stick her in wherever you can get her, kind of thing. Again, this one is looking great. Oh, and I actually missed this little guy. There's one little lettuce plant right there that's growing. So hopefully I'm gonna get. Oops, I'm trying to zoom in on him. Hopefully I'm going to get a little extra lettuce there. But otherwise, you know, the bok choy has been feeding me for 3 weeks, and the Swiss chard. I've also done a blanching and freezing session of Swiss chard, so overall things are looking good. Please folks, always turn the water off after using the hose, because not turning off the water after using the hose can cause the hose to burst, and that no one wants that. So yes, this has been a public service announcement from your friend Willow. So now we are heading to the community garden bed, and it has been so hot and so dry here this year that most things, unfortunately, are just drying up. You may have heard that there are some terrible forest fires going on in British Columbia right now, and honestly, it's just been very, very, very hot. Much hotter than usual. And much drier also. We haven't had very much precipitation at all. So that hasn't been the nicest thing to have going on for people. But with the watering that I've done, the gardens seem to be doing really well. So I've been very diligent with my watering. Again, like I said, I started to be a little too diligent, then I realized, whoa, hold up there, sister. Pull back on those watering reins, because you're killing them with love. You are killing these zucchini plants with your watering love. So I did. And basically, I honestly really couldn't be happier with my first year of gardening in this new province. It's been a pleasant surprise. Getting the gardening space at my apartment was miraculous and wonderful. I thank my landlord so much for that. The only thing that's been a little bit of a challenge is the new bed. Make sure I don't get run over as I walk across the street. The new raised bed. But I've been doing what's called trench composting, which is basically you just dig a hole in the soil, you know, about 6 inches to a foot down, and you put a bunch of vegetable scraps and, you know, fruit peels and eggshells and all kinds of stuff in that trench. You mash it up a little bit with a shovel, and then you bury it. And that's what you can do if you don't have the space for a compost pile, or it's not allowed in your area, or you're scared of attracting varmints, little animals, or bugs, which are all kind of a potential problem when you're in an apartment. You can basically you can do this direct trench composting, which is basically you just bury the stuff and it eventually turns into compost. By next year, it'll be compost. I'm also gonna add some manure to the bed at the end of the year, and probably some leaves and maybe some grass clippings, just anything organic to kind of mix in there to spruce it up a little bit. I think that was the main problem why it didn't produce maybe as, you know, great as I had hoped. But the other thing was that we had a really cool and wet spring, so it might have been a combination of things. But ta-da! Here we are at the community garden, and things are growing very nicely here. Hope I'm in focus, probably not, knowing my mad camera skills. And you may remember this bed just barely getting going. Well, it is extremely lush and wonderful right now. Although I am worried about these onions, because it seems that the same thing is happening to them, that they're starting to rot, and I'm a little nervous about that. But I'll start on this end. Again, I got a couple of strawberry plants that I was not expecting, so that's great. I have those on the end. And then I have some chard, and also some kale. Kale goes all the way along there. Maybe go this end. It might be a little less sunny. Oh, but then my shadow's gonna get in the way. So this is the kale row. There's a row and a half of kale. And then this is the broccoli. Look at these bad boys. This is the first year I've ever grown broccoli. These really tall looking beautiful things are broccoli. And again, if they don't grow any heads, I'm just gonna blanch and freeze the plants. I'm probably gonna blanch and freeze the plants anyway. I think they'll probably stay good. Oh, we have a little dragonfly coming. I think they'll probably stay good for the whole time. And then we have, oops, better get my shadow out of here again. We have cauliflower. These are cabbage plants right here. And then cauliflower plants, and they get really huge. So I tried to leave enough space for them. It's really kind of surprising, you know, when you see the little seedlings, you're trying to space it out in your mind, like how much space is this plant gonna need? And you know, it seems like, oh, it couldn't possibly need that much. But as you can see, I mean, it just gets crazy. And in a raised bed, you don't have to use rows, because you're not walking in there. You're able to reach across the whole bed for weeding. So, you know, you can really kind of pack it in there. And then down here, I have a bunch more Swiss chard coming, and it's looking lovely. It looks like it's just about time for me to do another blanching and freezing session. So one of the things I've learned this year, because this is the first year I've ever done raised bed gardening. I've usually just been doing standard row gardening, like in a big full-size garden. With the raised beds, you can use a concept called square foot gardening. And so it's basically the idea that this is how many plants you can put in a square foot of space. And broccoli is 1, so 1 plant per square foot. Kale is 1 plant per square foot. Swiss chard, I think, is 2, maybe 3, 2 to 4. I can't remember. I know you're supposed to space Swiss chard out about 6 inches apart. And cauliflower and cabbage are supposed to take 2 to 3. I've kind of skimped on their space, so I don't know whether they're going to produce hugely or not. But again, the plants are also tasty, so that's always a good thing. And so for anyone who doesn't know what blanching and freezing is, basically, you know, if you have a big beautiful garden like this, you can't eat all of this at one time. So if you're lucky, you have enough that you can put away for the winter. And what you do is you pick these plants, and you then either steam them in a steamer, or plunge them into boiling water just for a couple minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes, depending on the plant. And then you take them out of there after 2 to 3 minutes, and you plunge them into a bowl of icy water. And And I didn't have ice cube trays, so I just actually just froze a bunch of blocks of ice in a rectangular Tupperware container. I just kept filling it and making blocks of ice, and that is working fabulously. I also have to use filtered water out of my Berkey filter. I can't use the chlorinated tap water, so that makes it a little trickier too. But basically, I'm gonna have a freezer full, I think. I'm hoping, anyway. I already have a good chunk of zucchinis started. I have a little bit of kale started and a little bit of chard started. And hopefully I'll also have some broccoli, maybe some cabbage and some cauliflower by the end of the year. I'm not banking on the cabbage and cauliflower, and I'm actually not even banking on broccoli heads, but the plants are looking so beautiful that I know I'll at least have those to have. And yeah, this is my first year actually blanching and freezing zucchinis, so it'll be exciting to see how they turn out. I think they're not going to be crisp, as nothing is crisp coming out of the freezer, right? It's all sort of to be used in stir fries or soups or sauces, stuff like that. So, but it's just so wonderful to have that stuff in the freezer for the winter. And if you're a person like me who has been poisoned by a fluoroquinolone antibiotic, most of your diet is vegetables, so this actually saves a huge amount of money. And when you're a person who cannot work full-time in the mainstream workforce due to this fluoroquinolone antibiotic poisoning, it's a serious help. But it's a serious help for anybody on a budget, I think, to grow any amount of food that you can. And also, it just feels good. It's just good for the soul to get, to get out there and get your hands dirty and to help something grow and just to watch things grow. It's amazing. If you think back to how, because you guys are monitoring my garden, but if I think back to how this looked even 3 weeks ago, it's explosive growth, y'all. Explosive. And then this is my little gardening neighbor's beds. And I actually snagged, because this bed was not being used, I actually snagged this little guy as well. And I have a tomato plant. This is the tomato plant growing in there. He's getting all big and beautiful. This tomato plant, I was told, was germinated in the space station. Now, that may sound far-fetched, but it was a school project, and the woman who gave it to me, her daughter was a teacher, and apparently, as part of their science project, they sent a bunch of these tomato plants up. So I hope we didn't bring back any, alien seed life form along with this. Or maybe am I glad? Maybe I should be hoping for that, considering the state of this planet. If they're benevolent, if you guys are benevolent and can help us overthrow the power regime of planet Earth, the current power regime of planet Earth, then grow to your heart's content. And these again are, I can't remember, cabbage and cauliflower. I can't remember which is which at this moment. So, and they were planted secondary. Again, I planted a second stage of those, so they're a little bit smaller than the other guys. But overall, everything's looking pretty darn good. And now finally, a little freezer tour of the blanching and freezing efforts that have been made. We had some chard, we have some kale, and we have tons of zucchini so far. Got the side action going on. So hopefully, my hope and my wish is that by the end of this season, this entire freezer will be piled high. And honestly, I think I can do it. I'm on pace. I'm on pace to do it.